Hello everyone, you are watching a snippet of the November 10th, 2022 countdown program. Today is Thursday. See the full version on Patreon. And thanks to everyone who is becoming our patrons right now. The main event of the last 24 hours is the Russia's statement about regrouping. In fact, they surrendered Kherson. Putin is not used to being associated with defeats. Based on the experience of recent history, it can be stated that as soon as some tragic or unpleasant events occur, the leader finds himself in the house, evades comments and is erased from the public field with an eraser. He seems to be hiding, waiting for everything to calm down. Of course, in a normal country, such a would-be leader would have been kicked out of power long ago, but Russia is a mysterious masochistic soul full of empathy for maniacs. And this time, Putin would very much like to shift the blame for yet another failure in Ukraine to General Sergei Surovikin. But it won't be easy to do so. Therefore, the schemers decided not to call white, but the surrender of Kherson, surrender. There is no surrender, but there is a regrouping, so there is nothing much to comment on. By the evening of November 9th, only individual Russian officials commented on the decision of the military command to leave Kherson. In particular, Andrei Turchak, Secretary of the United Russia General Council and First Deputy Chairman of the Federation Council, said that the Russian military near Kherson was at great risk. The Russian media themselves are generally reluctant to comment on the situation. The official position, leaving Kherson, is a Kutuzov maneuver. What does Kutuzov have to do with it? It is not specified. Perhaps this is a hint of a temporary retreat. It turns out that Kherson has turned into a meme sandwich. Tell someone to Navalny what it is. It turns out that it is possible to transfer an entire region back and forth. Now we are waiting for a sandwich transformation of the Crimea. Unlike Putin, who pissed like a fish on ice, US President Biden commented on the surrender of Kherson, noting that he seemed interesting that the Russians were waiting until the end of the US Congress elections to make this decision, which we have long known. And this shows that the Russian military has some real problems. End of quote. But let's go through the reference points of Russian propaganda. On Channel 1, the incident was called a regrouping of troops. On Russia 1 it was reported that Surovikin made a report, the content of which was bashfully silent. On NTV, the presenter reported on the alarming situation in the Kherson region, which requires quick and difficult decisions. After the publication of the video with Surovikin's report, a repost appeared on the Telegram channel of the propagandist Solovyov with the schedule of races in Moscow. Then he joined in the justification of the retreat and quoted Turchak, Prigozhin, and Kadyrov, who approved the decision of the command. And at this time, according to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the so-called evacuation of the population was stopped in Kherson itself due to the lack of people willing. The occupiers stopped issuing wages and social benefits. Rumors are circulating around the city that Russia is planning to blow up the nearby Novokakhovka Dam, that the Russian military have dressed up in civilian clothes and are hiding in private homes, or that the Russians will try to raise the city by firing artillery from across the Dnieper. According to American war analysts, Russian troops are now only trying to contain the advance of the armed forces of Ukraine, and not to completely stop the Ukrainian counteroffensive. At the same time, success is noted in the counteroffensive of the armed forces of Ukraine in the Kherson direction, which did not require major ground offensives. Also, observers do not believe that the withdrawal of Russian troops from the western bank of the Dnieper is a trap for the armed forces of Ukraine. And at this time, Russian analysts are tearing and throwing. Sergei Markov rages. Kherson demands to draw conclusions and stop mistakes. Therefore the question, but those who have been laughing for 8 years on our TV and in the media that Poroshenko and Zelensky are clowns and that Ukraine will soon fall apart and that Europe will freeze without gas and stop supporting Ukraine, are they still on TV? Still laughing and joking? Now what are they laughing at? The representative of the State Duma, Lugovoy, even stated that they had everything according to plan in Kherson, but at the same time threatened with massive shelling of thermal power plants.
From a political point of view, we are demonstrating to the Ukrainian society that we are ready to sow chaos and panic, to finish off the energy infrastructure in such a way that no one has a chance to think that during the cold snap there will be comfortable living conditions. They finally have to determine who they are with. The second is a political signal to our society, because there was a rather long operational pause in the offensive for 2 to 3 months. It is obvious that in the summer it is much more difficult to conduct offensive operations. There is greenery, and long daylight hours, and difficulties with reconnaissance, and therefore, all these blows that they inflict show to our entire society that we are actually following a certain strategic plan. And the fact that this happened in early October is more of a coincidence that there were events related to the Crimean Bridge. And speaking from the point of view of further military actions, it seems to me that we should rely on the Dnieper. This is a supporting river, 25 bridges today, most of which are located in Kiev and Dnepropetrovsk. This is the width of the river 700 meters, and in the absence of bridges, which are also in the plan, any provision of the Ukrainian group of troops outside the territory of the Dnieper, they are now on the left bank, will create certain difficulties. I do not rule out that we drag the forces of Ukraine into this territory in order to possibly cut them off.
Become our patrons and see further in our program. Relatives of those mobilized from the Kursk region came to the border with Ukraine and recorded a video complaint, giving out a state secret that all mobile phones for Putin and his generals are toys and execution meat. On November 8, elections to the Congress were held in the United States. Republicans win the majority of seats in the House of Representatives. In the Senate, the score is almost equal. There was no crushing Republican victory. U.S. President Biden announced his intention to run again in the presidential election in 2024. Today he goes on tour in 3 countries, Egypt, Cambodia, and Indonesia. Putin is not going to the G20 summit. Instead, he will prepare the text of the address to the Federal Assembly. One of the signaling functions of the message is to demonstrate the viability of the state and the leader personally. Collaborators are dying like flies. Yesterday, Sotnik-TV crashed in an accident near Kherson. Today, in the occupied Crimea, ex-deputy Alexei Remenyuk rolled into a Kobzonary. But Sotnik-TV has already been awarded posthumously by Putin. Salda is worried. And that's all for today. See the full version of the program on the Patreon resource. And thanks to everyone who is becoming our patrons right now. I hugged everyone. See you tomorrow on Friday Live. Glory to Ukraine.